This video is looking at the recipe corn and bacon Mornay in bread cases, and the point of this recipe is to understand the technique of making a basic roux. Now, a roux is also known as a white sauce, and we often use roux for as a filling for a Mornay. We might use them on silver side or for a cauliflower gratin. It's that white sauce that you often see around Christmas time and that sort of thing. Now, a roux is equal parts fat and flour, and the idea behind a roux is it undergoes a few different processes, which I'll explain in a moment, to help thicken and just to make a nice flavoured sauce. So the first thing that you need to do for this recipe for the Mornay cases is get your bread into the oven. So the way that we do that, remember, cut your crust off using the bread knife, not squishing your bread down. You just want to saw your bread. Keep the bread, and we'll use those for breadcrumbs. Grab yourself a muffin tray, as well as melt some butter, and grab a pastry brush. And what we're going to do is just brush the bread with the melted butter. Now, these little Mornay cases are excellent for things like for morning teas, for afternoon teas, for hors d'oeuvre food, for finger food, canapes and that sort of thing, because they're quite small, but you can pick them up with your fingers and use them as finger foods. So the butter side goes down into the tray. It's also an excellent way for using up stale bread. Into the muffin tray, press down, making yourself a nice little bread case. Now, you're going to do 12 of these, so you've got to fill all the 12, and then they go straight into your oven. They need to be in your oven for about 20 minutes. So while they're cooking, then you can get started on your roux. So roux, as I said before, it's butter, it's flour, and milk. So the first thing you need to do is put your butter into the saucepan, and you're going to melt it. For this particular recipe, we're going to do two things at once. We're going to make the roux as well as cook the bacon and the onion as well. Saute the onion, and into that also goes bacon, which you should have brunoise, so it should be nice and little. Then we're just going to give that a stir. Be careful with this though not to burn. It might be an idea to turn your heat down, because if you burn this, it's going to discolour your sauce. Alright, so once you've sauteed your bacon and your onion for a little while, then what we do is we add in the flour. We need to heat this flour in with the butter. In flour we have what's called starch, and starch has two little molecules in it called amylose and amylopectin, and what happens is during the cooking process, when we apply heat, that heat breaks open the starch molecule, releases the amylose and amylopectin, and that amylose and amylopectin absorbs the liquid. Now, if we don't heat the starch, it doesn't break open those molecules. Another important thing when making a white sauce is also agitating your mixture. What happens if we don't agitate it, if we were to just simply tip the milk into that mixture, is we'd get lumps forming, and then we wouldn't have that beautiful smooth consistency that you really want with a white sauce. Okay, once you've done that, then you need to take it off the heat, and you're going to add your milk gradually. Now, it's really important to do this while it's off the heat, because if you try and do it while it's on the heat, it's going to be really hard to get that nice consistency, because what will happen is it will start to cook and you'll get lumps forming in your mixture. Now what we're going to do is we're going to reapply the heat. So by now the starch molecules, they should have opened up to release the amylose and amylopectin, which will then absorb the milk, which is our liquid. We're stirring it constantly to prevent the formation of lumps, and then we have this process called gelatinization. Add your corn in, because we just want to cook our corn a little bit. You can add your parsley in, and then you can add some cheese in as well. And the cheese just gives it a nice creamy, cheesy texture, just to add a little bit more flavour. Once your bread cases are ready, they should be a nice golden brown colour, and you should be able to lift them straight out, and they'll hold their shape like this. You're just going to fill each of these. Now, what you could do if you really wanted to is you could sprinkle a little bit more cheese on top of these, and put them back into the oven just for a little bit. Once you're ready to serve, obviously when we're serving for a function, we generally use a long tray or platter. So this time I've just got a nice little long platter. I'm just going to put them onto the middle. What I'm going to do is just grab a little bit of parsley just to garnish, because it does need a little bit of colour. At the moment it's looking a little bit bland, but that is how you do a basic roux and how you make corn and bacon Mornay in bread cases.